Hi everybody, Matt here from Matt Likes Comics. I just thought that I would take a few minutes today to talk about why I like comics, why comic books mean so much to me. I've seen other people do videos where they talk about their love for certain things, and honestly, I want people to have a bit of insight into why I am who I am with my hobby and why I do what I do here. Just going to point out, my daughter has asked me to become bushy, so I'm not going to shave for a little while. So you may see a beard grow over the next few weeks to see how it looks and see if my daughter likes it. Anyway, back when I was a wee kid, my dad pulled out my uncle's comic book collection, which was all late Silver Age DC. A lot of Superman, a lot of Legion, some Batman, some Flash. And as a result, I became a huge fan of comic books. I learned how to read words that were more than Dick and Jane go here through the comic books. I learned scientific terms. It gave me a lifelong love of learning and a curiosity that would not because I'd see like, oh, this chemical, da da da. Well, I wanted to know what that chemical was and what da 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 da. So over the years, I became, like everything piques my interest. I become a bit of a researcher, as things are. My training is as a paralegal slash legal assistant, where legal research was part of getting the college diploma. And college is different in Canada than it is in the United States. When we say college, we mean what community college means for the Americans. Here we call university what you would call college, even though they're both universities. So as I got older, I was buying comic books. I was also buying hockey cards and candy and all that other stuff that kids buy, but I was buying a lot of comic books and did so throughout all my years until I want to say 19. About 19, I sold my comic books because I had to, I was going out on my own and just didn't want to carry them. And I got a good price for it. That was 1990, 91. I did continue in the comic book industry, helping out my friends who were dealers and stuff like that until about 1984, still picking up the odd thing. But, and I say but, when the crash hit, it really hit, and I decided I was done. There was too much, and there was too much garbage at the time. Now, I would like to point out, as an older gentleman who has read some of these 90 comics now, I like them a lot more because now I can appreciate more what people have done to go through them. But when I was a punk little 20-year-old kid, I mean, who wanted nothing more than to get drunk and play rock and roll music every weekend, I didn't have the appreciation for it that I should have. So I stopped reading comics for years, and then my son was born, and I was home quite a bit, and someone had told me that Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who I'm a huge fan of, had her adventures continued in comic books. So I will take a moment here to show you Buffy's first appearance in comics. This is annual 1998 of Dark Horse Presents. But I didn't know that at the time. To me, it was season 8. I didn't know there was an earlier Buffy series at the time that I started buying. I found that out later after I bought an Overstreet. And that's the thing. Once I started buying those, well, I was done. I bought an Overstreet. Next thing you know, here we are. And I've been collecting comics since 2010, ever continuously. In this time, I've managed to put together a lot of the books that I had when I was a kid. And it's taken a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of money. although the money is going down right now because prices are going down. But there were times that the prices were up and I was dropping money, and I probably shouldn't have at some points, but because now that, for example, the prices are better. But that's another story completely. I spent a long time building this collection, and I am very happy about it. Why I like comics so much? They serve as a guy like me who feels high strung and high stressed all the time. They're a great escape. And I've felt this way since I was a kid. I got beat up a lot when I was younger. So going to my room and reading my comic books was a way to escape the world. In that world, I could be the hero. I could be Superman. I could be Batman, although I didn't have the billions of dollars. But, you know, I could be Spider Man. I could be Iron Man. I could be the Hulk. So I liked the escapism. And as the I got older and was realizing that the characters were just more than guys going whap whap on the page, and started reading the stories, I got really into the backgrounds and the stories, because again, I am a naturally curious person by nature. I like to read everything I can get my hands on for in a comic book situation, and I will drop a comic and Google something if I want to know. I'll still do that to this day. I mean, just yesterday I was reading a book, um, Son of Satan. Here, I was reading this, and I wanted to know where a certain street in St. Louis was. So I looked it up on Google Maps, because this book takes place in St. Louis, and that was that. It was cool, but I mean, like, that's just who I am. I'm silly that way. What I like the most too is the variety of stories. I don't have to just read Superman. I can read Superman. I can read The Witching Hour. I can read Batman. I can read the Hulk. They're all different people. They all have different personalities. They all have different rogues galleries. There's different types of comics. I can read a Donald Duck comic, for example, and laugh for no reason. I can read Legion of Superheroes, where there's character development. I can read Golden Age books that are nothing but little crime fantasies or horror fantasies. It's that simple. The point is, there's pretty much something for whatever mood I'm in. So there's always something I can read. I'm a big Conan fan, and so being able to I have read a lot when I was younger. I read a lot of the Conan novellas when they were reprinted in places and such, and so I got into the Conan comic books. I've always liked the sword and sorcery type thing. Yes, I played Dungeons and Dragons like a lot of us have done, and this kind of stuff kept going. I'm also a big sci-fi fan, so I'm getting into science fiction books like Star Wars and Star Trek and Unknown Worlds and Strange Adventures. They all had their place, and I liked it. I liked the variety, and I liked the colors. Although I'm a big fan of black, white, and red comics, I think visually they strike a huge thing. When I was younger, I was a big fan of all the bright colors that you would get from certain books. Like, you'd get this. Okay? I certainly was not a fan of covers like this, because the color on it wasn't too bad. And to be honest, I think that's one of the things that turned me off when I was younger about 80s and 90s books from Independence and such, was there was a lot of them in black and white. And at that time, I didn't have the understanding that that's how comics generally were outside of the newspaper. I mean, I loved newspaper strips as well. I read them all, High and Low BC, anything that was printed in the Ottawa Citizen at the time, back then. So Spider-Man, we didn't have that one. We didn't have the Superman series when it was still being written. We didn't have Star Wars, but we had a lot of the Other ones like Hagar the Horrible, Lois, High and Lois, Blondie, a lot of the ones that everybody recognizes. I enjoyed those for the gag a day. I am pretty certain that my sense of humor comes from these comic strips because they like to do double jokes and puns and all that kind of stuff, and I love that sort of stuff. I could sit there and listen to Jimmy Carr all day, um, as an example, because he's just pun after pun after pun, one-liners, bang, 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 bang. So the other thing I liked about comic books was their collectability. I didn't have to read it once and throw it away. I could keep it and reread it and reread it. As an example, I've probably read for an entire year, I probably read the DC Comics Presents 59, the story of the Superman and the Legion of Substitute Heroes, for the first year after that I picked it up at the stand because it was just great. It had everything I liked. It had colors, it had a silly little story, it had great characters in it, it had jokes, it had everything that I liked about comic books. So as I got older, my tastes have only changed slightly. Now I can get into. One of the reasons I found it hard to get into Marvel when I was younger was that Marvel was very text heavy compared to DC. But now I can really get into it because between EC Comics and the Marvel comics of the 1960s and 70s, I enjoy reading the text now. I enjoy seeing where the writing comes from, especially since now that I know a lot of the writers from 70s Marvel wrote for 80s DC. That ended up being a good thing. One of the other things that I liked about comic books was price, because when I was a kid, being able to get so much out of buying something for 40 cents or 50 cents or a quarter, whatever the price was at the given time, was valuable because I could go to the store with $1, get myself a chocolate bar. I know I sound like an old man now, but and a comic book. And back then it was great. Um, I thought it was fantastic. Because back in the 70s and 80s, we only had cartoons on Saturdays. We didn't have these cartoon networks that were showing cartoons all the time, so we weren't able to learn about new series and stuff like that. So the GI Joes and the Smurfs and all that, I wasn't picking up because I didn't have enough exposure to them to really enjoy. I love GI Joe now. I loved GI Joe probably by the time I was 15. I started really getting into it, and that's when the Marvel series was wrapping up. So and IDW didn't come along for a little bit after that. But I digress. I just thought that I'd share was some of the things that I like about comic books and a little bit about me and my collecting habits. I do buy a little too much compared to some people. I think I got a bit of the hoarder in me. At least my wife tells me that all the time. My son seems to have picked up those tendencies. You should see all the crap he's got in his room. And that's okay. That's who I am. I just have enjoyed, it's a big part of my life. And if you're watching this, I hope that it's probably a big part of your life too, because you're watching comic book content here on YouTube. And the biggest thing, though, that I have liked about doing about the comic books is it's given me an opportunity to do this channel. I started this channel because a few people were telling me that they thought I'd be good at it, and because I had been nervous and I wanted a way to pass on my knowledge, not in a arrogant I am a professor way, but in a fun, easy way, to hoping to get you to think and go, hey, that sounds cool. I want to read it. And that's where it comes from. I've reached 300 subscribers at the time of this taping, and I never expected to get more than 50. I am so grateful for everybody out there that's given me a chance and that follows me and watches my stuff. You guys are helping me continue because when I think, I don't know if I got this, but I'm like, but people are liking it. So sure enough, I come up with 3 or 4 more topics. Here I am. And that keeps my interest in comics alive because it's taking doing this channel has taken me outside of my little box. I've bought comics now like Tarzan that I never thought I would own. I have Golden Age books now because of a couple of friends that sort of piqued my interest that way. I've been buying more Marvel. I've never been a big Marvel fan, but I liked certain titles like Fantastic Four. But now I'm buying other stuff. I bought an Invaders at the comic store today. Anyway, I just hope that you enjoyed this. If you liked what I've done, please like, subscribe, comment below. I want to hear what your experience are. What do you like about comic books? I want to see the comics down there, the comments down there, well, comics too, but I want to see what makes you tick as a comic collector and lover of comics. Anyway, my name's Matt, and I like comics, which this video probably explained. And I hope you do too. Thanks a lot.